Pain has a strange way of changing a person. It can either convince someone that they are broken forever, or it can awaken a strength so deep, so fierce, and so life-changing that they become stronger than they ever imagined. And when a woman chooses healing, when she decides that her pain will not define her, something extraordinary begins to happen. Her pain becomes her power. Now think about that for a moment. The very thing that tried to destroy her becomes the very thing that builds her. The betrayal that made her cry at night teaches her discernment. The rejection that made her question her worth teaches her self-respect. The failure that made her doubt herself teaches her resilience. The heartbreak that left her shattered teaches her how to love herself. This is the beauty of healing. It transforms suffering into strength. We often look at powerful women and admire their confidence, their courage, and their strength. But what we fail to see is the journey behind that power. We see the woman who walks with confidence, but we do not see the tears she cried when no one was watching. We see the woman who speaks boldly, but we do not hear the years she spent doubting her own voice. We see the woman standing tall, but we do not see the battles she fought within herself just to rise. Power is not born in comfort. Power is born in pain. And the woman who has walked through pain and chosen to heal carries a different kind of strength. One that cannot be taught, one that cannot be bought, and one that cannot be taken away. Consider the woman who was constantly told she was not good enough. Maybe she heard it in a relationship. Maybe she heard it in her workplace. Maybe she heard it from the people she trusted the most. Those words wounded her deeply. For a long time, she believed them. She shrank herself. She doubted herself. She questioned her value. But one day, she decided to heal. She began rebuilding her confidence one piece at a time. She stopped measuring her worth through the opinions of others. She began speaking kindly to herself. She started recognizing the value she had forgotten. And slowly, the same woman who once felt not enough became the woman who knows exactly who she is. That is what healing does. It takes insecurity and turns it into confidence. It takes fear and turns it into courage. It takes weakness and turns it into strength. That is power. Or think about the woman who experienced failure. She gave her best to something, a dream, a career, a relationship, and it fell apart. Failure embarrassed her. It wounded her pride. It made her question whether she was capable at all. Many people stop there. Many people let failure define them. But a healing woman does something different. She learns, she reflects, she grows. She realizes that failure was not sent to destroy her, but to develop her. She understands that every setback carried a lesson, and every lesson prepared her for greater success. Then the very failure that once made her feel defeated becomes the reason she becomes wiser, stronger, and more determined. That is pain becoming power. And perhaps the most relatable example is heartbreak. Heartbreak has the power to leave someone feeling empty. It can shake identity. It can make a woman feel as though she has lost part of herself. But healing teaches her something heartbreak never could. It teaches her that she is whole on her own. It teaches her that her value does not decrease because someone failed to recognize it. It teaches her that losing others can sometimes be the beginning of finding herself. Then one day, the woman who thought heartbreak destroyed her realizes that heartbreak introduced her to her own strength. And that is where the transformation happens, because once pain becomes power, she is no longer the same person. She no longer sees herself as a victim of what happened to her. She becomes the author of what happens next. This is what makes healing so powerful in everyday life. The woman who has turned pain into power no longer crumbles at every obstacle. Life still challenges her, but now she knows she can survive. She knows storms do not last forever. She knows pain has purpose. She knows that every struggle carries the possibility of growth. This kind of woman walks into life with quiet strength. She may not be loud, but she is powerful. She may still have scars, but she is stronger. She may remember the pain, but she is no longer ruled by it. That is what inspires people, because everyone understands pain. Everyone has experienced rejection, heartbreak, disappointment, or failure in some form. And when people see someone who has faced pain and risen above it, they are reminded that healing is possible for them too. That is why a healed woman is so powerful. Not just because of what she overcame, but because of what her healing represents. She becomes living proof that pain does not have the final word. She becomes living proof that brokenness can be rebuilt. She becomes living proof that wounds can become wisdom. And that kind of transformation inspires everyone around her. Because when one woman turns pain into power, she gives others permission to believe they can do the same. She reminds the broken that they can be restored. She reminds the fearful that they can be brave. She reminds the wounded that they can become whole. And there is no greater power than that. So never underestimate the strength of a woman who has healed. Because the woman who has survived pain carries wisdom. The woman who has healed carries confidence. The woman who has turned pain into power carries a fire that no hardship can extinguish. She has learned that pain is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of transformation. And once that transformation begins, she rises stronger, wiser, and more powerful than before. Because in the hands of a healing woman, pain does not remain pain, it becomes power. There comes a moment in a woman's life when she stops looking outside herself for approval and starts discovering the value that has been within her all along. That moment changes everything. Because the day a woman realizes her worth is the day she steps into a new kind of power. A power that no opinion can shake, no rejection can steal, and no circumstance can destroy. For so long, many women are taught, directly or indirectly, to measure their value through the eyes of others. They are praised when they please people, accepted when they meet expectations, and valued when they fit the roles society creates for them. They begin to believe that their worth depends on how others see them. If people approve of them, they feel valuable. If people reject them, they feel worthless. If people praise them, they feel confident. If people criticize them, they begin to doubt themselves. This is how many women lose sight of their true worth. They hand over the power of defining their value to the opinions of others. And the dangerous thing about that is that other people's opinions are unstable. One day people celebrate you, and the next day they ignore you. One day they applaud your presence, and the next day they question your value. If a woman builds her worth on external approval, her confidence will rise and fall with every opinion around her. But healing changes that. Healing teaches a woman to stop asking, do they value me? And start asking, do I value myself? That shift is life-changing. Because when a woman heals, she begins to understand that her worth is not something that other people give her. Her worth is something she already possesses. She learns that her value is not reduced by rejection. She learns that criticism does not cancel her greatness. She learns that being overlooked does not mean she is unworthy. And suddenly, the woman who once begged to be chosen becomes the woman who knows she is valuable whether she is chosen or not. That is what it means to know your worth. Think about the woman who stays too long in unhealthy relationships because she does not believe she deserves better. She tolerates disrespect because she fears being alone. She accepts the bare minimum because she has been convinced that asking for more is asking for too much. Every time she is ignored, she blames herself. Every time she is mistreated, she lowers her standards. Every time she is undervalued, she questions whether she deserves love at all. This happens in everyday life more often than people realize. A woman may remain in a friendship where she is constantly the one giving while receiving nothing in return. She may stay in a workplace where her contributions are overlooked and her talents are ignored. She may continue chasing the approval of people who only appreciate her when she is useful to them. Why? Because when someone does not know their worth, they settle for less than they deserve. But when healing begins, everything changes. She starts recognizing the difference between being needed and being valued. She starts understanding that love should not require self-abandonment. She starts seeing that respect is not a luxury. It is a standard. Then one day, she looks at the places where she was tolerated instead of celebrated, and she no longer wants to stay there. Why? Because she finally knows her worth. And once a woman knows her worth, she no longer accepts what dishonors her peace. She no longer remains in rooms where she must shrink herself to be accepted. She no longer stays connected to people who only value her when she is convenient. She no longer confuses attention with respect. This is one of the greatest transformations healing creates. The woman who once settled becomes selective. The woman who once doubted becomes confident. The woman who once chased validation becomes secure. And this confidence is different from arrogance. Arrogance says, I am better than others. Confidence says, I know my value. A healed woman does not need to prove her worth loudly. She carries it quietly. It shows in the way she speaks. It shows in the boundaries she sets. It shows in the standards she refuses to lower. For example, imagine a woman in a workplace where her efforts are constantly ignored. She works hard, contributes ideas, and gives her best, yet she is rarely acknowledged. Before healing, she may assume that the problem is her. She may overwork, overextend, and exhaust herself trying to earn recognition. But after healing, she sees clearly. She understands that her value does not decrease because others fail to recognize it. She no longer overworks to prove she matters. She no longer begs for appreciation. She no longer bases her confidence on applause. Instead, she knows the value she brings, and that inner certainty changes the way she carries herself. That is power. Or think of a woman who constantly compares herself to others. She looks at other women's beauty, success, achievements, and lifestyles, and feels less than. Comparison steals her joy and weakens her confidence. This is a daily battle for many women. Social media, society, and unrealistic standards constantly whisper, you are not enough, not pretty enough, not successful enough, not talented enough. But healing silences those lies. Healing teaches her that worth is not a competition. She realizes that someone else's beauty does not diminish hers. Someone else's success does not cancel her value. Someone else's gifts do not make her less important. Then comparison loses its power. And the woman who once felt inferior begins to stand confidently in her own identity. That is the beauty of knowing your worth. When a woman truly understands her value, she stops chasing things that do not honor her. She stops forcing relationships. She stops begging for recognition. She stops proving herself to people determined to misunderstand her. Instead, she begins choosing environments, relationships, and opportunities that align with the values she carries. And that inspires people, because in a world where so many people are desperate for approval, a woman who knows her worth shines differently. She teaches others that confidence does not come from applause. She teaches others that value is not based on acceptance. She teaches others that self-worth is stronger than public opinion. She becomes an example of what it looks like to live from inner confidence instead of external validation. And the truth is, people are deeply inspired by those who know who they are, because so many people are still searching for their value in titles, in relationships, in praise, and in success. But a healed woman reminds them that worth begins within. She shows that confidence is not about perfection. It is about self-recognition. It is the courage to say, I know who I am. I know what I deserve. I know my value. And once a woman reaches that place, she becomes unshakable, because rejection may hurt her, but it will not define her. Criticism may challenge her, but it will not break her. Being overlooked may disappoint her, but it will not diminish her. Why? Because she knows her worth. And when a woman knows her worth, she becomes powerful beyond measure. She walks with dignity. She speaks with confidence. She lives with intention. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because she changed. She stopped looking for value in places that could never provide it. She found it within herself. And once a woman discovers that kind of worth, she becomes unstoppable. There is a freedom that money cannot buy, status cannot guarantee, and applause cannot create. It is the freedom that comes when a woman heals from the emotional wounds that once controlled her life. It is the freedom that comes when fear no longer makes her decisions, when guilt no longer steals her peace, and when the pain of the past no longer dictates the way she lives in the present. This is emotional freedom. And when a woman reaches this place, she becomes powerful in a way that transforms every area of her life. Many people think healing is simply about feeling better, but healing is much deeper than that. Healing is about breaking the invisible chains that emotional pain creates. Those chains may not be seen with the eyes, but they are felt every single day. They show up in the fear of speaking up. They show up in the guilt of saying no. They show up in the anxiety of disappointing others. They show up in the constant need to please everyone while neglecting oneself. This is how emotional wounds quietly control a woman's life. A woman may smile on the outside while silently battling fear within. She may appear strong while carrying guilt that weighs her down. She may be surrounded by people yet feel trapped by anxiety, rejection, or insecurity. And often, she becomes so used to living this way that she mistakes emotional survival for emotional freedom. But surviving is not freedom. Freedom begins when healing starts. Healing teaches a woman to recognize what has been controlling her. It allows her to see that the fear she has carried, the guilt she has obeyed, and the pain she has hidden do not have to rule her forever. This realization is life-changing because once she realizes she has the power to heal, she begins to reclaim the power she once gave to fear. Think about the woman who is afraid to speak her truth because she fears rejection. Every day she stays silent to avoid conflict. She agrees when she wants to disagree. She accepts what hurts her because she is afraid of being misunderstood. She says yes when her heart is screaming no, not because she lacks intelligence, not because she lacks opinions, but because fear has convinced her that peace comes from silence. So she keeps shrinking herself to keep others comfortable. She avoids hard conversations. She hides her real feelings. She buries her needs. And little by little, fear steals her voice. This happens in everyday life more than we realize. It happens when a woman stays quiet in a meeting, even though she has a valuable idea. It happens when she tolerates disrespect in a relationship because she fears abandonment. It happens when she says it's okay even when she is hurting inside. Fear becomes the invisible prison. But healing unlocks that prison. Healing teaches her that speaking her truth may feel uncomfortable, but losing herself is far more painful. Then something changes. The woman who was once afraid to speak begins to find her voice. She starts saying what she feels. She starts expressing what she needs. She starts standing up for what she deserves. And with every honest word she speaks, fear loses power. That is emotional freedom. Or think about the woman trapped by guilt. She feels guilty for resting, guilty for saying no, guilty for putting herself first, guilty for disappointing people. She carries the emotional burden of trying to make everyone happy. This is the reality for so many women. They become caretakers, peacekeepers, problem solvers, and emotional protectors for everyone around them. They pour endlessly into others, often at the expense of their own peace. And whenever they try to set limits, guilt whispers, "You are selfish. You are letting people down. You should do more." So they ignore their exhaustion. They silence their needs. They keep giving even when they are empty. This is not love. This is emotional captivity because guilt has become the force controlling their choices. But healing changes that. Healing teaches her that saying no is not cruelty. Rest is not selfishness. Boundaries are not rejection. Then the woman who once felt guilty for protecting her peace begins to understand that her well-being matters too. She starts resting without apology. She starts setting limits without shame. She starts choosing peace without guilt. And the guilt that once controlled her decisions begins to disappear. That is emotional freedom. And perhaps one of the greatest forms of emotional captivity is living under the weight of the past. Many women are emotionally trapped, not by what is happening now, but by what happened before. A painful betrayal, a humiliating failure, a painful rejection, words that wounded deeply. Even though the moment has passed, the pain remains. The past whispers, do not trust again. Do not try again. Do not hope again. So she builds emotional walls. She stops trusting. She stops risking. She stops believing in better. The pain of the past begins shaping the choices of the present. This is what unresolved pain does. It keeps a person emotionally stuck. Imagine a woman who was deeply betrayed by someone she trusted. That pain taught her to expect disappointment. Now, even when healthy people enter her life, she struggles to trust them, not because they harmed her, but because the pain she never healed is still controlling her. This is the power of emotional wounds. They can keep a person reacting to yesterday while trying to live today. But healing breaks that pattern. Healing helps her separate the past from the present. She begins to understand that what happened to her should not control what happens next. She learns that past pain can teach lessons without becoming a life sentence. Then slowly, she begins to trust again. She begins to hope again. She begins to open her heart again. And the pain of the past loses its grip. That is emotional freedom. A woman who gains emotional freedom begins to live differently. She no longer makes choices based on fear. She no longer sacrifices her peace out of guilt. She no longer lets past pain define present possibilities. Instead, she chooses from a place of peace. She speaks because her voice matters. She rests because her peace matters. She trusts because her future matters. This kind of freedom is inspiring because so many people are living emotionally bound without realizing it. They are controlled by fear, but call it caution. They are controlled by guilt, but call it kindness. They are controlled by pain, but call it protection. But when a woman heals and breaks those chains, she becomes an example of what true freedom looks like. She shows others that it is possible to live without fear controlling every decision. She shows others that peace is possible. She shows others that emotional wounds do not have to become permanent prisons. And that inspires transformation. Because when one woman finds emotional freedom, she becomes a reminder that healing is possible for everyone. She reminds the fearful that courage is possible. She reminds the guilty that peace is possible. She reminds the wounded that freedom is possible. And once a woman tastes that kind of freedom, she can never return to the emotional chains that once held her. Because emotional freedom changes everything. It changes the way she thinks. It changes the way she chooses. It changes the way she lives. She is no longer surviving life emotionally imprisoned. She is living life emotionally free. And there is nothing more powerful than a woman who is free inside. Because when fear no longer controls her, when guilt no longer manipulates her, when pain no longer defines her, she rises into the fullness of her strength. And that freedom becomes her power. One of the most powerful signs that a woman is healed is not in how loudly she speaks, how much she achieves, or how much praise she receives. One of the clearest signs of healing is this. She learns to set boundaries. She learns that protecting her peace is not selfish, it is necessary. And the moment a woman understands this truth, she begins to live with a strength that changes every relationship, every decision, and every part of her life. For many women, the word boundary feels uncomfortable at first because from a very young age, many women are taught to be available, agreeable, accommodating, and endlessly giving. They are praised for sacrificing, admired for enduring, and appreciated when they put everyone else first. They are taught to be nice, to avoid conflict, to keep the peace, to be there for everyone. And while kindness is beautiful, many women are taught kindness without limits. So they say yes when they are exhausted. They give when they are empty. They tolerate what hurts them. They remain silent to avoid disappointing others. Little by little, they begin to believe that love means overextending, that being good means self-sacrifice, and that protecting their own peace means being selfish. This is where so many women lose themselves. They become everything for everyone while becoming strangers to themselves. They carry everyone's burdens. They meet everyone's expectations. They respond to everyone's needs. Yet inside they are tired, emotionally tired, mentally tired, spiritually tired. Because when a woman lives without boundaries, she gives others unlimited access to her energy while slowly draining herself. And this is the painful reality. Without boundaries, even the kindest heart can become exhausted. Think about the woman who is always available for everyone. Whenever someone needs help, she says yes. Whenever someone needs support, she shows up. Whenever someone asks for her time, she gives it. At first, this looks admirable. People call her dependable. People praise her generosity. People admire her willingness to help. But behind that generosity, she may be neglecting herself. She cancels her own rest to solve other people's problems. She sacrifices her own needs to meet everyone else's expectations. She carries emotional responsibilities that were never hers to carry, and because she fears letting people down, she keeps giving beyond her limits. This happens every day. A woman may spend all day caring for others and feel guilty for taking 1 hour for herself. She may work beyond her capacity because she cannot say no. She may answer every request, every call, every demand, even when she is overwhelmed. And slowly she becomes emotionally depleted. Why? Because without boundaries, generosity becomes exhaustion. This is why healing is so powerful. Healing teaches a woman that saying yes to everyone else should not mean saying no to herself. Healing teaches her that love without limits becomes self-neglect. Then something begins to change. The woman who once said yes to everything begins to pause. She begins to ask, do I have the capacity for this? Is this healthy for me? Am I giving from peace or from pressure? These questions are the beginning of boundaries. And boundaries are the beginning of freedom. Because when a woman learns to say no when necessary, she is no longer controlled by guilt, fear, or the need for approval. She begins to understand that every yes costs something. Every unnecessary yes may cost her energy. Every forced yes may cost her peace. Every guilt-driven yes may cost her well-being. And once she understands this, she realizes that saying no is not selfish. It is wisdom. Imagine a woman in a workplace where she is constantly asked to do more than everyone else. Because she is reliable, people keep giving her extra responsibilities. Because she is hardworking, people assume she will handle it. Because she does not complain, people keep piling more on her. At first, she accepts it because she wants to be seen as helpful. But over time, the pressure becomes overwhelming. She feels stressed. She feels exhausted. She feels unseen. And yet, she keeps saying yes because she fears being viewed as difficult. This is how the absence of boundaries creates quiet suffering. But healing changes her perspective. She begins to understand that being valuable does not mean being endlessly available. Then she learns to say, I cannot take that on right now. I need support with this. My workload has limits. Those words may seem simple, but they are powerful because every boundary says, my peace matters. My energy matters. My well-being matters. And that is healing in action. Or think about the woman in relationships, friendships, family connections, or romantic partnerships, where people constantly cross her emotional limits. They disrespect her time. They ignore her needs. They take from her without reciprocating. She keeps tolerating it because she fears losing the relationship. So she stays silent when hurt. She accepts what drains her. She excuses what dishonors her. This is one of the most painful consequences of weak boundaries. A woman begins to believe maintaining relationships is more important than protecting herself. But healing reveals a powerful truth. Any relationship that requires a woman to abandon her peace is too expensive. This truth changes everything. The healed woman begins to recognize that boundaries do not destroy healthy relationships. They reveal unhealthy ones. When she starts saying, I will not accept disrespect. I need honesty. I deserve reciprocity. Some people may resist. Why? Because people who benefited from her lack of boundaries often struggle when she begins to protect herself. This is why boundaries require courage, because setting boundaries may disappoint others. But healing teaches her something greater. It is better to disappoint others than to continuously betray yourself. That truth is life-changing, because the woman who once feared upsetting people now understands that peace is worth protecting. She no longer allows guilt to control her choices. She no longer allows fear to silence her limits. She no longer sacrifices herself to keep everyone comfortable. And this is where her power rises, because every healthy boundary is an act of self-respect. Every time she says, "No, I need rest. No, that is not acceptable. No, I cannot carry that." She is declaring that her life matters. And this inspires people, because so many people are living without boundaries. They are overwhelmed because they cannot say no. They are drained because they cannot protect their peace. They are hurting because they allow what should never be tolerated. Then they see a woman who sets boundaries not with anger, not with cruelty, but with clarity and self-respect. She teaches them that peace deserves protection. She teaches them that love needs limits. She teaches them that boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are doors that teach people how to treat you. This kind of woman changes the atmosphere around her. People learn that her kindness is real, but it is not limitless. Her love is genuine, but it is not permission for mistreatment. Her generosity is beautiful, but it does not come at the expense of her peace. That is true strength, because many people think strength means enduring everything. But true strength means knowing what not to endure. True strength means knowing when to say, "This no longer serves my peace. This is beyond my limit. This is where I draw the line." That kind of strength comes from healing, because a healed woman understands something that changes her life. She is responsible for protecting her own peace. Not everyone will protect it for her. Not everyone will honor her limits automatically. Not everyone will recognize when they are taking too much. That is why boundaries are necessary. They are the way a woman teaches the world how to treat her. And when she learns to set those boundaries, she no longer lives at the mercy of everyone else's demands. She lives from a place of peace. She gives without losing herself. She loves without abandoning herself. She helps without exhausting herself. That is the power of boundaries. And when a woman discovers that protecting her peace is not selfish but essential, she rises into a deeper kind of strength. A strength built on self-respect, a strength built on wisdom, a strength built on healing. And from that place, she becomes stronger than ever, because she has learned that peace is precious and she is worthy of protecting it. Sometimes the greatest purpose in a woman's life is born from the deepest pain she has endured. What once felt like the darkest chapter becomes the very place where her strength, her wisdom, and her calling are discovered. This is the beauty of healing. It does not simply help a woman recover. It awakens purpose. Before healing, pain often feels meaningless. When a woman is hurt, betrayed, rejected, or broken, the first question that often rises in her heart is, why? Why did this happen? Why did this pain enter my life? Why did I have to go through this struggle? In those painful moments, it is hard to imagine that anything meaningful could come from suffering. Pain feels like loss. It feels like interruption. It feels like something that has stolen joy, confidence, and direction. And many women begin to believe that pain has ruined their story. They think the heartbreak has disqualified them. They think the struggle has delayed them. They think the wounds have made them weaker. But healing reveals something extraordinary. Healing shows a woman that pain did not come to destroy her future. It came to shape it. The struggles she faced began to teach her lessons she could have learned no other way. Pain teaches compassion. Pain teaches wisdom. Pain teaches resilience. Pain teaches strength. And as healing takes place, she begins to realize that what wounded her has also prepared her. This is where purpose begins to awaken, because purpose is often discovered in the very places where pain once lived. Think about the woman who endured rejection for years. Maybe she was overlooked in relationships. Maybe she was underestimated in her career. Maybe she was made to feel invisible in environments where she longed to be valued. That rejection wounded her deeply. It made her question her worth. It made her doubt her abilities. It made her wonder if she truly mattered. But through healing, she begins to understand something powerful. The rejection that once broke her gave her the ability to recognize the worth of others. Now she notices the people who feel unseen. Now she encourages the people who feel overlooked. Now she becomes the voice she once needed. Why? Because the pain taught her compassion, and suddenly, what once felt like meaningless rejection becomes the foundation of meaningful purpose. Now, her purpose may be to uplift, to encourage, to create spaces where others feel valued. This is how pain awakens purpose. The wound becomes wisdom, the struggle becomes service, the pain becomes preparation. Or think about the woman who experienced failure. She had dreams, plans, and expectations, but life did not unfold the way she hoped. Perhaps she invested in something that collapsed. Perhaps she trusted a path that led nowhere. Perhaps she gave her best and still did not succeed. Failure often leaves a woman feeling lost. It can make her believe she is incapable. It can make her fear trying again. It can convince her that her dreams are over. But healing changes the way she sees failure. Instead of seeing failure as an ending, she begins to see it as education. She realizes that failure taught her patience. Failure taught her humility. Failure taught her perseverance. And the woman who once thought failure ruined her path begins to understand that failure redirected her path. This is how purpose is awakened. The lessons from failure become tools for the future. Now she can guide others through setbacks. Now she can encourage those who feel defeated. Now she can stand as proof that failure is not final. The very thing that made her feel lost becomes the very thing that gives her direction. That is purpose born through healing. Daily life is full of examples of this transformation. Consider the woman who struggled with insecurity for years. She constantly compared herself to others. She doubted her beauty, her voice, her worth. She lived under the pressure of trying to be enough. This insecurity shaped how she showed up in the world. She stayed quiet when she had ideas. She held back when she had gifts. She settled because she did not believe she deserved more. But when healing began, she slowly discovered her value. She learned to embrace who she was. She learned to silence the lies that told her she was not enough. She learned to stand in confidence. Then something incredible happened. The woman who once struggled to believe in herself developed the ability to help others believe in themselves. Because she knows what insecurity feels like, her words carry empathy. Because she fought to find confidence, her encouragement carries authenticity. Now she inspires others because she has walked the road herself. That is purpose. Purpose often rises from personal transformation. The area where a woman fought the hardest often becomes the area where she can impact others the most. The woman who battled insecurity can empower confidence. The woman who endured rejection can teach worth. The woman who survived hardship can teach resilience. This is why healing awakens purpose. It turns pain into preparation for impact. And one of the most beautiful parts of purpose is this: it gives meaning to the pain. The woman who once asked, "Why did this happen to me?" begins to say, "I can use this for something greater." That mindset changes everything, because pain feels unbearable when it feels meaningless. But when pain begins to reveal purpose, suffering takes on new meaning. The heartbreak becomes a lesson. The struggle becomes preparation. The wound becomes a source of wisdom. This does not mean pain was easy. The tears were real. The disappointment was real. The loss was real. But healing helps her see that pain was not pointless. It was shaping her into someone capable of making a difference. And that realization gives her strength, because purpose gives pain direction. Instead of staying trapped in what happened, she begins asking, how can I grow from this? How can I use this? How can this experience help someone else? Those questions awaken purpose, and purpose gives a woman a new reason to rise. She is no longer healing just to survive. She is healing to become wiser, to become stronger, to become someone whose story carries impact. This is deeply inspiring because so many people believe their pain has disqualified them. They believe their struggles have ruined their future. They believe their wounds have made them less capable. They believe their brokenness has made them less valuable. But a woman whose healing awakens purpose proves the opposite. She proves that pain can become purpose. She proves that wounds can become wisdom. She proves that struggle can become strength. And when people witness that transformation, they are inspired because they begin to believe that their own pain may also hold purpose. They begin to believe that what hurt them can also shape them. They begin to believe that what they survived can become something meaningful. This is why a healed woman is so powerful. She carries purpose that was born from pain. She no longer sees her struggles only as wounds. She sees them as part of the process that prepared her. And that gives her life a deeper kind of meaning. She wakes up with purpose. She speaks with purpose. She serves with purpose because she understands that her healing was not only for her. Her healing gave her wisdom others need. Her healing gave her strength others can learn from. Her healing gave her a story that can awaken hope. And that is the miracle of purpose. The pain that once made her question everything becomes the very thing that clarifies why she is here. The struggle that once seemed like the end becomes the beginning of impact. And the woman who once thought she was breaking discovers she was becoming, because healing does not just restore a woman, healing awakens the purpose that was waiting to rise within her all along. There is something deeply powerful about a woman who has walked through pain, found healing, and risen stronger than before. Her strength is not just personal, it becomes contagious. Her healing does not stop with her. It reaches the people around her. Without even trying, she becomes a source of hope, courage, and inspiration for others. This is the extraordinary beauty of healing. A healed woman inspires others. People are inspired by authenticity. They are moved not by perfection, but by transformation. A woman who has never struggled may impress people, but a woman who has struggled, healed, and risen has the power to inspire them. Why? Because people see themselves in her journey. They see the pain she survived and remember their own pain. They see the courage she found and begin to believe they can find courage too. They see the way she rebuilt herself and realize healing might be possible for them as well. This is what makes her influence so powerful. It is not her perfection that inspires. It is her healing. Think about how often people hide their pain. They smile while feeling broken. They function while feeling exhausted. They pretend to be okay while carrying silent battles. So when they see a woman who has faced pain honestly, but refused to stay defeated, something awakens in them. They begin to think, if she made it through, maybe I can too. That thought can change a life. This is why the healing of one woman matters far beyond herself. Her courage becomes evidence that healing is possible. Consider the woman who once battled deep insecurity. For years, she believed she was not enough, not beautiful enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. That insecurity shaped how she lived. She stayed silent in rooms where her voice mattered. She doubted opportunities she deserved. She accepted less than she was worthy of because she did not believe she deserved more. Many people live this way. They carry silent insecurities that shape every decision. Then imagine that woman begins to heal. She starts recognizing her value. She starts speaking with confidence. She starts showing up fully as herself. Now, when other people see her, they do not just see confidence. They see possibility. The woman who once doubted herself now inspires others to believe in themselves. Her healing becomes a message. You do not have to stay where pain left you. That message may never even be spoken aloud, but it is felt. This is how healing inspires. Or think about the woman who went through heartbreak. She gave love trust, and vulnerability, only to be hurt. Heartbreak left her shattered. She questioned her worth. She questioned love. She questioned whether she would ever feel whole again. Many people know this pain. Heartbreak can make a person build walls around the heart. It can make them fearful of trusting again. It can make them believe they will never recover. But when a woman heals from heartbreak, she begins to live differently. She learns to love herself. She learns to trust wisely. She learns that her worth was never determined by the person who hurt her. Then the woman who once believed heartbreak ruined her becomes a living example that heartbreak can be survived. This inspires others because somewhere someone else is in the middle of that same pain. Someone else believes they will never recover. Someone else believes they are broken forever. And when they see her strength, they begin to believe in their own healing. This is how a healed woman gives hope. Not by pretending life was easy, but by showing that pain is survivable. Daily life offers countless examples of this quiet inspiration. Imagine a woman who struggled with anxiety for years. She constantly feared judgment. She worried about failing. She lived under the pressure of trying to control everything. Many people know this invisible struggle. On the outside, she may have looked fine, but inside she was overwhelmed. Then she begins to heal. She learns to quiet the fear. She learns to trust herself. She learns to move forward even when uncertainty remains. Now, when others see her handling life with peace, they are encouraged because many people are silently battling the same anxiety. Her healing gives them hope that peace is possible. This is the power of lived testimony. People are inspired by what they can see. When they witness someone who has overcome what they are struggling with, it breaks the lie that change is impossible. That is why the healed woman inspires. She becomes visible proof that pain does not have the final word. And often the most inspiring part is that she inspires others in ordinary moments, not only through speeches, not only through public success, but through everyday living. She inspires through the way she carries herself. She inspires through the peace in her decisions. She inspires through the confidence in her voice. She inspires through the wisdom in her responses. People notice when someone has peace after pain. They notice when someone responds with wisdom instead of bitterness. They notice when someone carries strength instead of resentment. They notice when someone radiates confidence instead of fear. This kind of transformation speaks louder than words. For example, imagine a woman who was once treated unfairly, betrayed, or deeply hurt, but instead of becoming bitter, she becomes wiser. She does not let pain turn her cruel. She does not let wounds make her hard. She heals and becomes stronger. People around her notice this. They see grace where bitterness could have lived. They see peace where anger could have remained. They see strength where brokenness once existed. And that kind of transformation inspires deeply because people know how easy it is to become bitter after pain. So when they witness healing, they witness hope. And hope inspires. A healed woman also inspires because she creates emotional permission for others. Many people are afraid to face their wounds. They suppress pain. They avoid healing. They pretend to be fine. But when they see a woman who faced her pain courageously and came out stronger, it gives them permission to begin their own healing. It tells them, you can face this.